Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Married by Mistake by Lindsey Hart. Narrated by C.J. Bloom. Chapter 1. June. Holy Mother of Hannah, whoever that was. Waking up with a splitting headache, compliments of an epic hangover, next to a burly, handsome, ash-blonde giant of a stranger was one thing. Waking up with a hangover, no memory of the night before, a stranger, and a simple gold band glistening on her left ring finger was quite another. June Lashinsky bolted upright, which was hangover rule number 1, mistake. She never took her eyes from the glistening ring, not even when she leaned forward and dry-heaved nothing but glistening lines of spittle onto the white hotel sheets. The beast beside her stirred and let out a caveman-worthy groan. "What the fuck?" he mumbled sleepily, confused. He stared at her until she managed to get her rolling stomach under control. Thankfully, nothing came up. The sour taste in her mouth lingered disgustingly. Obviously, it was the least of her worries. The caveman with the strong brow, the square jaw, the straight nose, full lips, and piercing dark midnight eyes ran a hand through his long, already disheveled ashy blonde hair. Even half sitting up, it was obvious that he was over 6 feet of pure jacked sin. He was bronzed. He probably had dimples when he smiled. Even through the pain knifing through her head, the gut-twisting tornado she had going on and the wall blocking her memories, June realized the guy was handsome. Not just handsome. Total fuck-worthy material. Which was, well, obviously the case. She didn't even need her drunk goggles to want to jump his bones. He was the kind of guy that could walk into a room full of women and up the estrogen production tenfold. What the heck am I doing in bed with a guy most women would give their left tit to have a baby with? He probably causes spontaneous pregnancies just by breathing. A jolt of hot electricity burned its way shamefully up her spine. June gripped the sheet and tugged it up when she realized the beast was eyeing her naked breasts. Oh, God, is that what we did last night? What the hell? She asked harshly. Unfortunately, the sheet slipped down, revealing an already pert, dark bud. Are you a pervert or something? The guy ran a meaty hand through his hair again, his flawless bronzed brow crinkled in confusion, pulling his brown eyebrows closer into the bridge of his nose, which was a nice nose, solid and straight and strong. Honestly, at the moment, I don't know. I hope not, though. He looked her up and down, and June burned under the frank inspection. Judging from the fact that we're both naked and this is Vegas, and my head is splitting, you look to be in the same boat. I would say it was consensual. June let out a low moan. Why on earth would you say that? Do you ever have non-consensual sex? The guy's frown deepened, and something knifed through his azure eyes. Eyes the color of a dark abyss you could get lost in. What the hell? Seriously? I'm already grade A pathetic. I don't have to make it worse. Never. Why would you even say that? Because of what you said. I thought you might be an escort or something, okay? An escort? She choked. What? That would still have to be consensual. I've never had any sex that wasn't consensual, the guy barked. Jesus, what does he have to do with it? The guy rolled his eyes. I'm hungover as hell at the moment. All I have is a blank sheet in my mind about what happened last night. I have never, ever forced a woman to have sex with me. He nailed her with a direct stare. Do I look like I need to? Oh, that's just great. June threw back the sheets and exploded out of bed. Not only did I just spend the night sleeping beside some kind of pervert, I also picked the most humble man in all of Nevada. I'm sure they're in abundant supply here in Vegas, and I'm not a pervert. The guy's icy eyes raked down her body, her naked body, appreciatively. None of that was what I meant to say. I meant instead of consensual, I meant... God, I can't think of the word. Mutual. That's what I meant. And I don't know where the escort thing came from. I guess I just wanted to see what you'd say. You never know. He had the nerve to flash her a charming, witty smile. A smile! As if it was funny. June gasped and hurried over to the black puddle of material on the hotel room floor. She glanced around the room as she picked it up. It was nice. Obviously a suite. It had a hot tub-style bathtub, whatever they were called, in the corner. A huge TV mounted on the wall above a bar with a mini-fridge and actual cupboards. A leather couch, a desk and chair, a small table, and a huge king-sized bed. The carpet was black. The bedding was black, though the sheets were white beneath. Everything looked new and expensive. It smelled new and expensive. Apparently, she'd done what every other woman out there aimed to do and somehow landed a rich one. A rich pervert. She cursed herself that she didn't find the idea as repulsive as she should. In fact, the thought of doing things with the infuriating stranger made things throb. The wrong kind of things, and the wrong kind of throb. She wrenched her eyes back to the shimmery puddle of fabric. She folded it this way and that, and no matter how she pulled at it, it didn't turn into a dress, or even a skirt, or anything at all. You ripped my dress apart? She gaped at the man in the bed. She held up the scrap of fabric. It's ruined! Now what the hell am I supposed to wear to do my walk of shame? Her eyes dashed about the room and landed on a dark black dress shirt. She stalked over and snatched it up. She didn't hesitate before she pulled the shirt around her body. The top 2 buttons were long gone. The beast obviously had a penchant for destroying his own clothing as well. She did the next one up and the one after that with fumbling, useless fingers. She nearly cried out at the stabs of pain that racked her brain with each and every single one of her furious, erratic movements. Looks to me like you wanted to get laid. The beast had the nerve to cross his arms over his far too broad chest, a movement that made each and every single corded, bulging, rippling muscle bulge and ripple that much more. She wondered if it was actually humanly possible to bench press a car. That dress says it all. You're disgusting, June shot back, just like all those men that say a woman was asking for it. This is Vegas. Have you seen what people wear here? She pointed to the puddle of black silky sparkles on the floor. That there is long enough and good enough to wear to church in comparison. The beast rolled his eyes. Oh, come on. Seriously? I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry, I definitely didn't mean it like that. He trailed off and June almost felt sorry for him. The look on his face was so lost and helpless. Clearly he was at a loss, just as she was. I would never say anyone was asking for anything. You come to the worst conclusions. You make me sound like the devil. No. No, I will not feel sorry for the bastard. I don't care that I'm making him feel bad by twisting all his words around. He's the one making himself look bad by saying them in the first place. June let out a long, frustrated sigh. She had no idea how she was going to get back to her hotel room. She did remember that she'd gone out with her 2 friends, Jasmine and Mandy, the night before. They'd decided to take a girls' trip to Vegas, driven down from San Diego where they lived as a getaway. All because Jane's fucking dick of a fiancé, Rob, decided to cheat on her with another dude. If there was a Humiliation of the Year award, she might just win it. Doubly so, now that she was in a hotel room with a beast of a man who may or may not be hot as sin, if she was willing to admit it, a gold wedding band on her finger, and no memory of what happened. Also, currently, she had 0 clothes to get back from his place back to the safety of hers to figure out what the hell to do next. If only she hadn't let her girlfriends convince her that what she needed were a few wild nights, some good fun, a little gambling, some shows, and maybe, just maybe, a hot guy to forget all about Rob. June clenched her hands into tight, sweaty fists at her sides. She was in pain. Her heart ached like someone had just thrust a bloody knife through it, and twisted, and twisted, and twisted some more. She searched the recess of her foggy, painful mind for any recollection of the night before, but there was nothing there. She didn't remember the guy in the bed even asking her if she wanted a drink. She didn't remember anything about him at all. June turned wildly to face the beast. He was sprawled out in bed like he owned it, his hands tucked behind his head, his bronzed skin, broad shoulders, rippling muscle, chiseled abs, hard pecs, and perfect, dusky pink nipples on display. FML. Big time. She had a history of falling for the wrong guys. Rob was just the last in a long line of mistakes. Yup, that confirms it. Failure of the Year award right here. She had to get out of there, give herself a chance to think, put some space between them until she could get herself together and just breathe again. But where? It wasn't like she could escape outside wearing only the guy's dress shirt, which hung off of her like a bag since it was about 6 sizes too big. The bathroom. Great. It looks like I'm married to a perverted, asshole, narcissistic alcoholic. Sinfully handsome, sexy as hell, prick who likes to go into full beast mode and tear off clothing before he sticks it to his new wife. She didn't wait for a response before she took off, rounded the corner, and locked herself away in the only clear refuge she could think of. Chapter 2. Brock. Married? What the ever-living hell? Brock Williams' eyes traced a quick, scalding pattern down to his left hand. Oh, no. Oh, God, no. My parents are going to kill me. Owen is going to kill me. He was already a publicist's worst nightmare. His parents were always on him to grow up, settle down, and give them grandkids. It was the last thing he was interested in. And now he was married to the infuriating woman who'd just tried to vomit in bed, right beside him, who'd accused him of being some kind of pervert who forced himself on women, like a monster in the night who preyed on the defenseless. This was his wife? Wait, what? Wife? Suddenly, he was pretty sure he was the one who was going to empty his stomach onto the bed. It finally settled in that the ring on his left hand wasn't just for show. The throbbing pain in his head let up just enough that he realized whatever he'd done the night before was a big mistake. Drinking. Okay, he did that in moderation. He'd had his fair share of wild nights. But then again, what 35-year-old man could say they hadn't lived a little along the way? Especially 35-year-old men with a mansion and their own private jet? Yeah, that made a difference. Women liked that. They wanted to get in the bed of Brock William III, just to say they did. Maybe they thought they had a shot at his heart. Maybe they just wanted a shot at his bank account. Okay, no maybe about it. Brock had thrown himself into work for the past few years. He dug in and grew the fuck up as his parents wanted. Oh, and Owen as well. The guy hadn't had to bust his balls in a long time. And now this. The whole point of Vegas was just to get away for a week, do some fun shit without the side of stupid. He planned on having a few drinks, kicking back by the pool, playing hours of poker, and maybe even doing a few excursions or tours to top it all off. Riding quads through the desert seemed like a lot of fun for someone whose entire day consisted of home, gym, office, in that order, even if all three of them were located in his house. He didn't like to go out anymore. He didn't like bothering with a disguise, and the people of Philadelphia knew that he was still rich and he was still single. Was. As in, he wasn't anymore. He'd once been accosted on a morning run by a group of 6 women who chased him down like a pack of hungry jackals. It spurred the whole decision to make his home gym. He liked running outside, but hell, he also didn't like being mobbed like a male stripper on girls' night. It was Owen who suggested that he get away to Vegas. It seemed like a good idea at the time. A city he could just blend into. Lots of rich people went there. Hell, half of L.A. emptied out on weekends and drove on down for a weekend of drunken debauchery. The black wall assailed him when he tried to recall any of what happened the night before. He'd had a few drinks. That was a given. When the hell had a few got so out of control? And when the hell had he picked up a woman along the way and convinced her that they should get married? Or maybe she picked him up. Maybe it was the other way around. He'd believe it. God, if he had to be married, the blonde who just fled to the bathroom wasn't half bad. Nope, not bad at all. She was beautiful, really. Even hung over, her long, lush hair matted and tangled. Even after she'd nearly thrown up onto the bed. Even after she chewed him out. Emerald eyes blazing fire. Those full, sensuous lips were so utterly kissable, it took all his strength not to jump out of bed and give her a good spanking for being so rude. With his mouth. On her mouth. His tongue on her tongue. Brock groaned when he glanced down and realized that his thoughts were leading to a whole lot of sheet tenting. The last thing he needed was to spring a hard-on for a woman who called him a pervert. And a predator. His wife. When did marriage get so hard? Oh, right. Always. When the shower clicked on in the bathroom, Brock threw back the sheets. She was probably going to be a while. Maybe she'd left the door unlocked. He could only be so lucky. He had to piss. His bladder was on the verge of rupturing. Maybe he'd get lucky and the shower wouldn't be all glass. Maybe it would be one of those things with a pull-across cheesy $5 curtain. In this suite, not likely. He tried to push his foggy mind to remember, but just like the details of the night before, memories of the shower eluded him. He'd only been in the bathroom for 5 minutes before he left. Yesterday was the first day of his week-long holiday. Of course, he had to ruin it right off the get-go. What better way to get himself accidentally married? Brock rummaged through the discarded clothing on the floor and picked up his black boxers from the night before. He shrugged and slipped them on. The black sparkly dress that he'd apparently torn off his wife the night before in a frantic burst of honeymoon zeal sat puddled at the foot of the bed. He barely resisted the urge to pick it up. He imagined bringing it to his nose and inhaling. What the hell? Maybe his mother would be happy. She was always asking him if he was seeing someone, if it was serious, and when he was going to give her a grandkid. For the last couple of years, the answer to her questions had been no, no, and I sure as hell don't know. Jaded? That wasn't exactly the right word. Exhausted. That was probably closer to the truth. If he phoned his parents and told them he was married, his dad would probably be pissed. Owen would have a heart attack trying to do PR damage control. His mom, though, she'd probably shit bars of straight gold, she'd be so happy. Brock sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. He scrubbed a hand over his face. His fingers rasped over a fresh growth of stubble. God, he needed a shave. And a shower. And a piss. He winced at the pain going on in his lower abdomen. Definitely a piss. The shower hissed off and he let out a long exhale. Thank God. The dull thud of the glass door echoed through the bathroom, which solved that question. A wispy sound of a towel being drawn over his wife's body, a stranger's body, took his mind off of thoughts of how badly he needed to use the bathroom. It made him want to be in there for a whole different reason. Maybe I am a pervert. A strange zing of a zipper echoed through the bathroom, and then there was a tearing of cardboard and plastic. He frowned. When the tap turned on and the unmistakable sound of teeth brushing started up, he couldn't sit idly by. Oh, hell no. She's brushing her teeth with my toothbrush. The new one he'd bought after landing and checking in when he realized he'd forgotten to pack his. Wife or not, that shit just wasn't going to fly. Chapter 3. June. Who packed a brand new toothbrush? There was a time in her life when she had some shame, or a sense of decency. Whatever it should be called. The whole giving a shit thing had flown out of the window right along with her status of single. She didn't mind at all that she'd just taken a shower in a bathroom that wasn't her own, and followed it up by rummaging around in an expensive, buttery soft leather shaving kit that certainly didn't belong to her. She found all the usual: tweezers, razors, a small tube of toothpaste, a tiny bottle of cologne, which smelled heavenly, a tiny travel-sized bottle of aftershave, also divinely scented, deodorant, all the usual. What she didn't find were condoms. Please, please, please let him have used one last night. A walk of shame in Vegas was bad enough. Unfortunately, what happened in Vegas didn't always stay in Vegas. A walk of shame at a gynecologist's office was on a level of evil June didn't even want to contemplate. She was still on the pill, but God, that only prevented pregnancy. She did find, in her rude perusal of items that weren't hers, a toothbrush new in the package. Normally, she wouldn't have opened it and helped herself, but the sour taste in her mouth hadn't been banished by the water dribbling down her face in the shower. Her mouth felt like there was a layer of fungus growing on her teeth. Not a pretty picture at all, especially with an already rocky stomach. June ripped open the toothbrush. After all, it did belong to her husband, and what was marriage about, if not sharing? Her thoughts couldn't be more sarcastic. She loaded the toothbrush with far too much toothpaste and stuffed it into her mouth. She didn't know heaven came in the form of bristles and mint, but that morning it did. It was even better than the shower, which had been ruined by the, love bite she found, right at the top of her left thigh. Compliments of the old ball and chain. What the hell have I gotten myself into? For that matter, where were Jasmine and Mandy? Apparently, they couldn't be bothered with playing a wingman and keeping her from making life-altering horrible decisions. She remembered, in her piece of crap broken memory bank, going out with them the night before. They'd been all giggles and girlish excitement at a weekend away. To forget Rob, get over Rob, fuck Rob. She'd show Rob. Yeah, she sure showed him all right. Nothing like getting over your cheating scumbag of an ex and the embarrassment of a lifetime like plunging headlong into another. A loud, furious pounding at the bathroom door pulled June out of her morose thoughts, and her sorry attempts at trying to recall what the hell happened the night before. A deep, angry voice drifted through the heavy steel. "You're using my toothbrush in there! I know you are! Stop that! That was mine!" She rolled her eyes and kept scrubbing her pearly whites. She made a big production of making sure she did an excellent job before she spat into the sink and rinsed the toothbrush, just to piss off the bastard a little more, because weren't all wives good for it? She pushed the soaking wet toothbrush back into the package and tucked it back into his shaving kit. June swiped a hand through the fog on the mirror, which was sure to leave a print. She gave herself a once-over. God, she looked awful. She had black circles smudged under eyes that looked far too exhausted. She tried to smile at herself in an attempt to look better, but it fell flat. Even her skin was far too pale. She looked how she felt, tired and hungover, and in one hell of a screwed-up mess. With a long exhale, June secured the white fluffy towel across her body, making sure all the bits were covered. Bits that, unnervingly enough, had already been seen and likely tasted by the Neanderthal out there, and unlocked the door. She stared down a rather angry, full-on caveman, who had thankfully donned a pair of boxers, not that it did anything to hide the best parts of him. He was well over 6 feet and all muscle. Screw the car! He could easily bench press her. He was all muscle. Layers and layers of muscle. She even liked the way his veins stood out against his bronzed skin. All that ashy blonde hair. Hair she wanted to brush her hands through didn't hurt either. And those eyes. Eyes that smoldered with a fury that only made them hella beautiful. Yeah, certainly didn't hurt his cause at all. Why couldn't the guy just look like the troll he was, right? Right. Because evil comes in many guises. You used my toothbrush. The caveman stalked into the bathroom and picked up the plastic package. His mouth fell open in angry amazement. Yeah? I wouldn't have if it was used. Sorry, and by sorry, I mean not sorry. She shrugged. I think we have more pressing matters than who used what toothbrush. I only did it once. I think it's still salvageable. Being that you probably had your tongue down my throat, I don't see what the problem is anyway. The beast growled at her. You don't see what the problem is? You came in here, had a shower, dug in my things, and used my toothbrush, and you don't see what the problem is? Yup, full-on caveman. I also used your deodorant, she admitted. His face turned an angry shade of red. Holy cow, possessive of the products much? Stop! He slammed the toothbrush back into his shaving kit. I have to take a piss. Then I'm going to have a cold fucking shower, and hopefully by the time I'm out, I'll remember what happened last night, and I'll have come up with a solution to our current situation. No need to get so angry, she goaded. Or do you also have those issues? Should I add it to your list of flaws? Pervert, judgmental asshole, rage machine? For some reason, it was way too much fun. And he's epically sexy when he's angry. She shouldn't have wanted to be turned on. She told herself she didn't want to be turned on. That the peeking of her nipples and the burn between her legs was just wrong. She just couldn't help it. She'd never been so close to a man who looked like him, and damn. Part of her wanted to savor the sexiness while she could. Part of her liked goading him, because it was just fun. And part of her, the evil, sinful part, acknowledged that it had been 14 million years since she last felt sexy herself. The beast ground his teeth so hard his jaw flexed. A very sexy vein stood out in his forehead. Oh, she was pushing his buttons all right. Anger? Issues? He grated. I've had enough. Out of all the people that I wind up accidentally married to, it just had to be someone like you. He stalked forward and slammed the door shut. The lock clicked in place. June resisted the urge to smack her hand against it in a 4-year-old version of a temper tantrum. A few seconds later, she heard the clank of the toilet seat and what actually sounded like a sigh of relief as he relieved himself. The piss went on for like 18 minutes. She stood there the whole time, aware that she was being a strange pervert herself at the moment. It was just funny. Funny in a way it shouldn't have been. Listening to a sexy stranger who just happened to be married to you, taking the world's longest piss, and sighing in relief about it shouldn't have been funny. If you couldn't laugh about your misfortune, what could you do? She clamped a hand over her mouth and stalked over to the suitcase, which was resting on that nice leather couch at the far side of the room. She unzipped it slowly, quietly, so that he wouldn't hear her in the bathroom. She shouldn't have done it, but she rifled through the clothes, which all looked expensive, until she found a t-shirt. It was soft cotton, black, and of course, brand name with a logo on the front. She slid into it, and it was practically a dress. She figured it would work for her walk of shame, when it actually happened. More like her taxi ride of shame. She cast a dubious glance at the sky-high heels strewn by the bed. No way she was getting into those. She was in the middle of zipping the suitcase back up when it came to her, snippets of memory like a parade of photographs. Cards. They'd been playing cards, poker, sitting next to each other at a table. She remembered how giddy she felt when the handsome man slid in next to her. Later, much later, far too many drinks in, she leaned in and he whispered under his breath, fueled by alcohol, desire, and the want of a good, hard fucking, which she hadn't had in years, that they should make a bet. A bet that had nothing to do with money. Of course, he meant sex. She thought he'd meant sex. Instead, she heard his voice like he was right beside her, whispering in her ear. Her neck heated, and a rush of wetness that was certainly not an aftermath from the shower trickled down her thigh. It was just them. The two of them left in the...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?